Cosmic News Network. First contact with Joshua Put.
Good morning, Earthlings. Good. How you doing today? Good. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Welcome to First Contact Radio. To talk about all these things we're talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
Yo, it's First Contact with Joshua Poe. He's the man on the mic, just in case you didn't know it. Covering news from all around the globe, from the weather and space to UFOs. We'll talk politics and make you open your eyes. Conspiracy theories and government lies. We'll dig it all up and try to find the proof. Cause the times is the man, the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio.
It's time to the man,
First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio.
Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome back to First Contact Radio. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you had a great weekend. Did you see the full moon last night? Pretty awesome, wasn't it? Pretty awesome full moon. It's kind of cloudy here for a while, but then it did clear up and got a chance to see it. I was talking to folks in other parts of the country, and they were able to see it as well. Plus, there were a number of viewers. If you didn't get a chance, you're able to go online and see through the telescope. So it's awesome, the technology that is available to us, that we can do something like this all around the world. Today is the 28th of September, 2015 on Gregorian calendar. The moon is just past that full moon mark. We saw that all last night. Nice big super moon. It will be a full moon tonight, slowly making its way back down to the new moon. The full moon is in Aries. Okay, the full moon is in Aries. That's the conscious, subconscious mind. The conscious mind is in Libra. So what we're looking at today, let's take a look at this here. Sun sign is Libra. Tarot card represented by, or tarot card Justice represents the astrological sign of Libra. It's about balance, karmic balance. It reminds us of this principle here, principle of cause and effect. Everything we do causes something to be affected. Everything that is affected has something that is another cause. So in other words, whatever we do, something happens. It's pretty simple. Pretty simple. So if we know that we're going to do something and there's going to be another thing created by what we do, and what we do is going to somehow come back to us, we oftentimes are a little bit more aware of what it is we're doing. Okay? Because we know that if we do something, we put it out, it's going to come back to us. And we're a little bit more aware of what comes back to us. At least sometimes we are. Not everybody is, but some people are. Here we have the Emperor. Hebrew letter He means a window. The phrase for this is he who sets in order, because this represents the conscious mind. Everything about this card has the color red, which is the color of action. We have the Emperor setting things in order. The astrological sign of Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, so it's a new beginning. Now, one thing about Aries the Emperor, Aries can also be the god of war. Instead of being the wise emperor who's ruling things, it depends on how this energy is channeled. If this energy is channeled and it's not properly put in an orderly fashion, it can be bottled up, it can get frustrating, and it can be warlike. And so that is one of the tendencies we need to watch with Aries, that Aries is not just charging out there to cause a problem, but is actually trying to organize things, put things in order. Okay? 10:56 a.m. We've got a lesson we're going to have to deal with. Prior to that, let's back up here. 3:52 a.m. we had an opposition between the moon in Aries and Mercury. So if we take a look at our opposition here, here's Aries, the moon, directly across Mercury. Okay, so this is one of the things we're dealing with, the opposition. Here we have Libra. So Mercury is in Libra. Mercury is all about communication, the balance we want to have in our lives. On this side here, the moon, the subconscious, is in Aries. So, two opposites here. The balance of life, the charging out, and the pioneering efforts made in life. And how we're communicating that is very important. Okay? Lesson 10:56 a.m. between Pluto, deep transformation, and Aries. Wants us to be able to transform ourselves, put in a new system of order, how things are going to be. And then, of course, Uranus is going to be conjunct with Aries at 8:30 p.m. tonight, which means they're both in the same house. Okay, so we will both in the same house, which means like they're right next to each other like this. Okay, but they get even closer over the course of the day, and that is why the conjunct is. So unexpected changes with Aries later this evening. Okay, and of course we have our wheel we were just looking at. Now in the Jewish calendar, the day for today is called 15 Tishri, and it also has this other name here for the next 3 days, Sukkot. Sukkot is another name for the Feast of Tabernacles. Feast of Tabernacles. It says the festival of Sukkot, commemorating God's enveloping protection of the children of Israel during their 40-day journey through the desert, is celebrated for 7 days, beginning on the eve of Tishri 15, which began last night, was the eve of Tishri. During this time, we are commanded to dwell in a sukkah, which is a hut of temporary construction with a roof covering of raw, unfinished vegetable matter. It could be branches, reeds, bamboos, etc., signifying the temporality and fragileness of the human habitation and the man-made shelter and the utter dependence upon God's protection and providence. How does one fulfill the mitzvah of dwelling in the sukkah? One should eat, drink, and live in the sukkah both day and night as one lives in the house on the other days of the year. For 7 days, a person should make his home in his temporary dwelling and his sukkah his permanent dwelling. At least 1 ounce of bread should be eaten in the sukkah on the first evening of festival between nightfall and midnight. Special blessing, Lashav Basukkah, is recited for the rest of the festival. All meals must be eaten in the sukkah. Okay, and then during the sukkah there is a tradition of things that are done, particularly according to Kabbalistic tradition. We are visited in the sukkah by 7 supernatural guests: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Aaron, Joseph, and David, on each of the 7 days of the festival. Okay, and during this time, we also have here the 4 kinds, which are things to be eaten. You shall take for yourself on the first day, instructs the Torah, the splendid fruit of a tree, fronds of dates, the branch of the thick-leaved tree, and avarat of the river. Torah Shibal Peh, the oral tradition gives Moses at Sinai and handed down through the generations and later document the Minesah and the Talmud. Identifies the 4th kind as the etrog or citron, lulav, opened palm branch, hadas, myrtle twig, of which 3 are taken, and the arava, twigs and willow. The palm branch, 3 myrtle twigs, and 2 willow twigs are bound together with rings made from palm leaves. Each day of Sukkot, except Shabbat, we take the lulav in the hand, reciting a blessing over it. Take hold of the etrog, hold the 4 kinds together, move them back and forth in directions right, left, forward, up, down, and back. An additional blessing, Heanoia, is recited for the first time. The 4 kinds are taken during the festival. We also hold the 4 kinds during the Halal prayer and the Hashanah prayers. Okay. And then there's dry and water celebrations. When the Holy Temple stood in Jerusalem, one of the special Sukkot observances was to pour water on the altar. The drawing of water for the purpose was preceded by all-night celebrations in the temple courtyard. On the 15 steps leading to the Azara, or the inner courtyard, stood Levites, while playing a variety of musical instruments. Sages danced and juggled burning torches, and huge oil-burning lamps illuminated the entire sky. The singing and dancing went on until daybreak, when a procession would make its way to the Shilolah spring, which flowed in a valley below the temple, to draw water with joy. One who did not see the joy of the water-drawing celebrations, declared the sages of the Talmud, has not yet seen joy in his life. But water was poured each day over the festival. The special celebrations were held on Talmud, since many of the elements of the celebration of the musical are forbidden on Yom Tov. Today we commemorate these joyous celebrations by holding Simchat Beit HaShevet, which is the joy of water drawing, events in the streets with music and dancing. Lubavitcher Rebbe initiated the custom of holding such celebrations on Shabbat and Yom Tov as well, without musical instruments, of course. The fact that we cannot celebrate as we did in the temple, said Rabbi, means that we are free to celebrate the joy of Sukkot with singing and dancing every day of the festival. And the daily thought for today is called Exploiting the Darkness. One who returns from the darkness must bring of it with him and convert it to the light. He must exploit his experience to surge higher and higher with greater strength. Therefore, the one who returns from a distance is greater than the one who is always close. What matters is not so much where you stand, but with the force with which you're moving in that direction. The Mayan oracle today is a 9-tone day. 9 tones are called the solar tone of intention. The solar tone pulses, so therefore the phrase I pulse in order to reflect realizing order. I seal the matrix of endlessness that comes from the mirror, which gives us the reflection of endlessness. With the solar tone of intention, I am guided by the power of timelessness, which is the wizard. So we have endlessness guided by timelessness. Hidden power is the subconscious abundance. Nurturance of the dragon is our like-minded energy, and shining bright like the stars, our challenge. We can see where we are in the wave spell. All in love and loyalty. We'll be there the next couple days throughout the rest of this week, except for Friday. The current moon phase is 100% of the way full. We just hit there yesterday afternoon. Hasn't even been 24 hours since we got to the full phase, so we'll still be dealing with that. Solar wind currently is 346.8 kilometers per second. And this is what the moon looked like. If you hadn't had a chance to see it last night, it was pretty awesome. I was out there for the whole time and with some friends, and we did get to see it. Planetary K-index is quiet at the moment. Could be up to 2, which is still quiet over the next 24, 48 in the way of coronal holes that we need to be aware of at this period of time. M-class flare possibility. 40% geomagnetic storm activity is low as well. 20%, 25%. And really the only other thing that we need to be concerned about as far as space weather goes is whether or not we are going to get hit by that asteroid today. What? What asteroid? I'll get to that in a moment. Okay, Monday, the moon, a day past full, rises in the eastern twilight when the stars come out to look high above the great square of Pegasus. Okay, there you go. So, what is this about the asteroid? Well, you know, one of the things that was speculated that there was going to be an asteroid that was going to hit the Earth, that it would hit somewhere from what the speculations were outside of Houston, and it would happen today on the 28th. Now NASA has since come out and they've said there wasn't anything out there. You know, people don't believe NASA for some reason, maybe because NASA lies to people all the time. But you know, that's where we're at. So if it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And life will continue on one way or another. That is it. UFO news is up next. Let's get to it.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk. Thank you very much. Today's UFO News has a number of interesting sightings, plus an important announcement. The first sighting here comes to us from the moon last night. Check that out. A couple of little objects up there. I knew we were going to find some UFOs up there. Always happens. Okay, just like it happens that this thing zips forward. Okay. The footage was shot by YouTube user Crow777. It shows a great looking black UFO moving across the moon. It's not a disk, but actually uneven on all sides. 3 objects were shot transiting the moon during the night, which is 1 day before the lunar eclipse. This is the first object of its kind shot in the month, and the past object activity seems to increase around during solar eclipses, or eclipses. Eclipses are manipulated events. I'll post other footage soon. Okay, so here's our video from Crow 777, and of course you are familiar with Crow 77's videos because we do see quite a bit. He's the one who's been putting the videos about the waves, lunar waves. So here we have.
Okay, welcome to the Crow Discovery Project. As is typical on these manipulated events we call eclipses,
Okay.
objects showed up last night. We filmed 3. I have 2 to present.
Alright, so we're going to go ahead and I think you should watch this video. It's 4 minutes and 14 seconds in length discussing the UFOs that go across it. Alright, but I'm going to leave that to you because you will be able to hear the whole piece and really get what he's saying there. Alright, hundreds of UFOs finally proven to be real. These are up by the sun. We've seen this clip before. So let's see what kind of explanation is provided. Look at all those. Okay. Says this is rather cool. UFO OVNI 2012 just made another video of the sun like he did last month. This time he caught a giant object passing in front of the sun. Maybe this big thing isn't a UFO. Maybe it's one of our planets. But what is very important is that it has a few black dots on it. You see, this confirms that the black UFOs on the edge of the sun are not glitches in the program, but actual UFOs collecting energy from our sun. The UFOs almost move at the speed of light when changing positions. We found evidence. We needed to prove that these are real. Thanks, UFO OVNI 2012, for an awesome catch. Oh, and to view the UFOs better, please watch in full screen mode. Switch the settings to HD and slow the speed down to 0.25 so you can see the UFOs. And this is a giant UFO sphere, type of camera used on this particular project. Okay. Let's zip over here so we can see a little bit more. The video itself is 4 minutes 33 seconds. Alright, so I'm going to leave the link available so you can enlarge this, look at it in widescreen, large screen, and HD. This next story says brother witnesses arrowhead-shaped UFO. Minnesota witnesses at Rochester reported watching a large black arrowhead-shaped craft hovering silently about 2 p.m. September 21st, 2015, according to the MUFON database. The reporting witness and his brother were driving in southeast Rochester along a hill when the object was first noticed. I happened to look off to my left side, saw a huge black arrowhead-shaped craft. My brother saw it at the same moment. It was larger than a commercial jet. It was hovering and not making any noise. The witness is certain others should have seen the object. It was totally clear day, and I would not be surprised to see others report on it. It was just there in the sky and so easy to see. If you looked up, there's no way you could miss it. Okay, let's move on from there. I've got a couple links here. First one's called Journey to Mars. This is all about the Mars program that is taking place on this location that they call Mars. There's now a movie coming out where they're going to be filming on a location that is supposed to be Mars. What do you think will look more real? What do you think will look more real? The movie about Mission to Mars or the images from Mars here? And next question, do you really think Mars that we're seeing these images from is really up on Mars? Or do you think this is somewhere down on Earth, a location that is far from prying eyes and they're filming there? It's been a lot of anomalies, a lot of weird things they have seen there. So I pose that question to you. What do you think? The reason I bring up about Mars is because they're going to make an announcement today. Okay, here's NASA TV, and later on over the course of today, let's look at their schedule. List of upcoming live events. Take a look at this. They said that they're going to be making some sort of announcement today about Mars. Not sure what the announcement is. Speculation is they're going to announce that they found running water up there. Maybe they'll announce that they found life. They did do that once in the past, but humans don't always remember things that were done. So even though they've done it in the past, doesn't mean that they can't do it again, because there are those who really, well, they don't remember the past time when they did it. But here's a little schedule of what's going on over there today. Here we are currently at 11:30 a.m. This is Eastern time, so they're getting ready to do this news conference coming up. So this news conference might be where they're going to be discussing what's going on. Let's take a look down here, see if there's anything further in the day. Nope, everything here seems to be dealing with space ISS interviews and things of this nature. So it would appear that coming up any time now is this discussion that they're going to have about what's going on Mars. So links available, so you can check it out, see what they had to say. Who knows what NASA will tell us. The National Association of Space Actors. Yes, that's what I think they are. Why? I don't believe that we went to the moon. I think they put on a really good show. I do think we have a secret space program that does things, but for the general public, come on. Look at the thing. It looks like it's got tin foil around it. Doesn't look like it would make it through space. Plus, you have engineers from NASA in 2015 saying that they can't get through the Van Allen radiation belt because they haven't solved that problem yet. So if they haven't solved that problem yet, how did they get through in 1969 and all the other times? Well, we don't know, because we can't seem to get back. Unfortunately, they lost the readings. They lost a way how to get back there. So the greatest discovery that we're told of all time, going to the moon, NASA lost the information, so they can't get back. Oh, I see. Very convenient, don't you agree? So we'll see what they have to say about Mars. Let's jump away. I'll be back. We'll continue on, and that's just the way it goes. I can neither confirm or deny. Here we go.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Underground is where they live. In the bases that are secretive. We're not supposed to know where they come from or where they go. And if you ask our leaders today, this is what they will say. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. What's up with their lives?
All right. I'm going to stop the song there so I can keep going, because I got a lot more news to say. It's Monday. I haven't been talking for a couple of days. Well, I have talked, but, not like this. So I'll probably have a lot to say and don't want to run over time. Not that that makes a difference either. All right. So we've had a number of prophecies that people have been looking at. Some of these were man-made dates. They've come and gone. And right as would be expected, those who don't really believe things are going to be going on and happening, they're jumping out saying, aha, nothing happened. See? Nothing happened. But I'm going to remind you about the fire, the water, the air, and the earth. Fire is represented by ideas, tarot card wands. Water, emotions, tarot card cups. Air, swords, actions or words, tarot card swords. And earth, the physical earth, pentacles. In order to get to the earth, in order to create earth, we have to mix the fire, the water, and the air. Of course, the thing that flows through all is spirit. So spirit comes down and we mix the aspects of fire, water, and air together. Fire is ideas. Water is emotions. Air are words or actions. So basically you take an idea, you apply an emotion to it, you then express that as some sort of an action, whether it's a activity or whether it's words to bring it into being, and earth is created. It's pretty much that simple. Fire, water, air, earth. So when we look at a situation, we need to look and see what happened. A lot of times people think because we're in the physical world, all the activities are going to be physical activities. And when they don't see a physical activity, they say, fail. This prophecy failed. Nothing happened. Guess what? Not everything happens in the physical world. Things happen in the fire, the water, the air. Why would they happen there? Because that's where people aren't going to look. You see, it's pretty easy to look for problems in the physical world, but we're reminded over and over again that the problems we're facing aren't in the physical world. Therefore, we can't find them because this is where we're looking for them. But we go to the spiritual realms, we go to the fire, the water, and the air, and we find how to solve the problems we have. So, what did happen over the course of this last couple of days? There were a lot of ideas. The Pope was in town. There were many, many, many ideas that have taken place. And these ideas have created emotions in people who heard what the Pope had to say. Emotions were created and felt. And because of those emotions, people have spoken certain words. They've taken certain activities. So maybe the physical world hasn't completely been transformed by everything yet because it's still happening. But the fire, the water, and the air were certainly stimulated. And we shall see how it unfolds. All that combined with the lunar eclipse that took place last night, which is something that experts have shown throughout history. There are various events in the physical world that happen when the moon is like this. There's indications that we just need to keep paying attention. Between the lines is what we need to see. Now, out in Philadelphia, or actually on his trip at all, this is about Philadelphia, says local chef on Papal visit, they didn't need to close every street. They were scaring most people. In other words, the police state rolled out, and most people don't even think twice about it because all they thought about was the Pope. Philadelphia has put into place major security measures for the papal visit, including the shutdown of major roads, school closures, and more. One Philadelphia chef took to Facebook to share how he felt about the planning of the massive event. He said, this is Mark Vitry writes, we're clearly all thrilled that the Pope Francis is here. Never has there been a Pope in history that people have had such admiration for while having such a gentle voice that transcends all religions and all walks of life. I can say that I was thrilled that the Pope has chosen Philadelphia to spread his message, and I remain thrilled. My only regret is that the decisions of the Philadelphia leaders, instead of engaging the citizens and businesses around the great city and welcome the Pope, have instead decided to roll out a red carpet for everyone making the pilgrimage and roll us up in the carpet to place in storage until Monday. I imagine a man like this Pope would like to see Philadelphia as is. We are the fabric of this city, yet it seems as if the people that make this city great were in by large an afterthought. His post continues. We didn't need to close every major street, bridge, or alley, scaring most people. The goal was to give a shot of adrenaline into our economy, not hurt small and large businesses alike, so they had to close. We didn't need to sweep the homeless people off the streets. Instead, we needed to realize that they are a part of this great city too. And like all cities, we have problems that need to be dealt with. We didn't need to spend an exorbitant amount of money fixing the streets and beautifying the city. When we are broke, we can't even afford our children's education that they deserve. This event has been magical as well as inspirational. The weekend riding the bicycle around neighborhoods with my children going side to side in the middle of Broad Street has been an experience of a lifetime that they will soon never forget. Neither will I, but I remain haunted by the empty streets and the shuttered windows. I can't help feeling that Philadelphia's pride and sense of community is absent this weekend, probably because they all left. Okay, so New World Order rolled out in Philadelphia. People didn't know. The Pope came there. The Pope likes to talk to homeless people. So what did they do in Philadelphia? They made sure they got all the homeless people off the streets, whisked them away. Can't have the Pope seeing the homeless. So kind of backwards in what was going on. But there's more to this story. So here I have one link to a PDF of his speech before Congress, and here is a link to his speech before the United Nations. Both are lengthy speeches. Both should be read. I would highly encourage you to read them both to see what the Pope had to say. I was quite impressed with things that he had to say. The words that he spoke were the right words. He spoke to Congress and the United Nations about ending wars, about finding a way to overcome the poverty, about taking better care of the people, about ceasing the activities of selling arms to terrorists, on and on. He said a lot of really good things. He addressed climate issues. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the things he was saying in this regard, but he talked about a lot of things. He said a lot these last 2 days the days when he was in Congress, United Nations. In some ways, you could look at him and you could feel that this was a man definitely carrying a message of peace going into a place of turbulence, the United States of America. Well, we could see that the Obamas disrespected him. First, they didn't show up on time for his plane. They made the Pope wait a little bit, circle around. There are those who say, oh, no, that didn't happen, but confirmation has come in that it did occur. Just the way in which they behaved. When you watch the family walking around the Pope, they didn't seem to be very respectful. People walking ahead, people walking on the side. It just was very kind of cluttered and disorganized. I don't really get the feeling that these Obamas really have too much respect for anybody other than themselves, and it's shameful that this is the family that they meet. But I will continue to say that the Obama is the Antichrist. You remember the pictures last week, the horns? Where do those come from? Somebody particularly staged those photos to be like that so that one would get the idea. So, what's the point of all of this rambling I'm doing? The point of the rambling is that in the midst of all of the things that he said at Congress and all of the things he said at the United Nations, it wasn't what he said, it's what he didn't say that sticks out. The Pope, we are told, is the vicar of Christ, the representative of Christ on earth. You would think that Christ, the name Christ, Jesus, who represents the Christ, you think that those would be names that would be mentioned. Yet neither of those names were mentioned in either of these locations. He didn't mention Jesus, Yeshua, when he was at the United Nations. He didn't mention Yeshua when he was at Congress. Why? Very strange indeed. But he did speak about Jesus when he was in New York. He did indeed. Only thing is, what he said seems to be somewhat controversial. The shocking message Pope Francis preached at New York. We're going to go down here to this particular passage of what the Pope said. Let's find the whole quote here. Where is it? He said that Jesus was preaching a message of failure on the cross. The cross shows us a different way of measuring success. Ours is to plant the seeds. God sees the fruits of our labors, and if at times our efforts and work seem to fail and not produce fruit, we need to remember that we are the followers of Jesus Christ, and his life, humanly speaking, ended in failure, the failure at the cross. Now, I don't know about you, but my entire time upon earth, I have been told that the Bible is an important book. so I've read it, like many others have. During my entire time on planet Earth, I have heard the church speak about Jesus and the cross as the greatest victory of the church because it shows a victory over death. Never at any time during all of my years have I ever heard anyone in the church refer to Jesus' time on the cross as a failure until the Pope spoke. So the Pope didn't mention Jesus at Congress. He didn't mention Jesus at the United Nations, but he did talk about him in New York and said he was a failure. That seems quite backwards to me, wouldn't you think? Sometimes we need to be careful who we're listening to, because perhaps he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. There are many who think the Pope is a false prophet. Well, he certainly seemed to carry on in a very bizarre way. On the last night he was praying the Lord's Prayer, strangely enough, he wasn't able to finish it or seemed to stop at certain parts. He began the prayer. He mumbled a little bit. He said a word or two here or there. He mumbled some more and then stopped talking. And during the part when the prayer says protection, about blessing and from temptation and evil, he didn't even say that. It's like he left that out and then came back in at the end. Kind of bizarre that the Pope would forget that prayer, the Lord's Prayer. Seems kind of strange that he would do that. Seems even stranger to me that he didn't forget it, but that he mumbled and chose to leave out some words. Didn't seem to find it important to pray for the protection against evil. Yet the Pope continued to tell people to pray for him. So what's going on here? Is the Pope under some sort of attack from someplace? I don't know. All I know is we take this information, we put it on a board, and we just decide, are these dots need to be connected to any other dots? We've got 2 visits by the Pope where he didn't mention Jesus, and a time where he did, but Jesus was a failure. Don't quite know. I've asked a number of people, Catholics, Christians alike, about what they thought of what Jesus said, and thus far, nobody's really been overly excited about it. Nobody's been really bothered by what the Pope had to say. Nobody seems to really think, well, maybe he misspoke. Jesus didn't fail. Haven't gotten any of that. Everybody's like, well, if the Pope said it, I guess we should consider what he means. Is that how it works? So the Pope's going to speak. Now, one thing that I heard that would concern me is that the Pope will say such things, and maybe we think he's innocent, and after that, but he's putting in plans or discussing how plans should go, and then it is man, government, who is going to implement those plans. How draconian are those plans going to be? The Pope kept talking about this plan, this agenda for 2030, Agenda 2030. Apparently it's some sort of 17-point plan about how to end poverty. But what kind of draconian measures are going to be put in place by the politicians and the world governments in order to make this happen? I don't know. I would be a bit cautious in taking everything the Pope said to heart. And just keep in mind, he didn't mention Jesus twice, and when he did, he said he was a failure. That doesn't seem to sit very well with me, and I know it doesn't sit well with a lot of others. So, just something for us to be aware of. Now, Pope leaves, all the talk about God when the Pope was here, but now we see this article here tells us that Marines are under fire for God bless sign. An atheist-minded activist has launched a legal threat against Marine Corps base in Hawaii, saying the commander needs to tear down a decade-old sign that says God bless the military or else face the fury of the organization. The Military Religious Freedom Foundation contacted Colonel Sean Killeen to demand the sign's removal. Fox News, the message which has stood plain in the base since shortly after 9/11, reads, God bless the military, their families, and the civilians who work with them. The Marine Corps Time reported the atheist group wants the sign to be relocated to the base chapel. The sign is a brazen violation of the non-establishment clause of the Constitution as it sends a clear message that your installation gives preference to those who hold religious beliefs over those who do not. All right, well, you could see that this is an idiot who's doing this. Hey, I don't know who. It doesn't have a name in here. Wait, it says military contacted. The Military Religious Freedom Foundation contacted Journal. Okay. So to the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, what's wrong with you? Pull your head out of your ass. Quit acting like idiots. If you don't like it, guess what? Don't read the sign. But it's no longer time that we're going to cater to idiots like you who don't believe in God. And if you don't believe in God, then go someplace else. Okay? But don't tell people who do to take their signs down. Don't you military people or anybody else out there. If you don't believe, then you don't believe. But you don't have to invade other people's rights. Just because you have First Amendment rights, just because you have freedom to do things, doesn't mean you have the right to trample on others. And if you think that's the case, get off the planet. Get out of the way of the people who think right, because if you think that, you're not thinking clearly, and you're a waste of time, you're a waste of breath upon this planet, and we don't need people like you, okay? No longer is God going to be pushed away off of this planet. God's coming back. God's been here, and the only way we're pushing God back is because we're listening to all of the stupid people who are telling us that God needs to be pushed away. Well, the stupid people are now the ones who need to be pushed away. God needs to be the one front and foremost. The stupid people just need to get to the back of the line, because all you are is ignorant of how life operates. And one day, your atheism is going to turn around and you're going to realize you were wrong. I know somebody who their whole life they were an atheist. Didn't want to talk about God, but the day that they were diagnosed with cancer, the first words out of their mouth were, "Oh God, help me." And they knew they were wrong, and they admitted before they died, and they admitted at one point they were wrong because they came to discover. So the whole life was spent being atheist, not believing until the very end. So it's going to be the same for others. We know God exists. Just stupid when you got idiots out there who try to pretend otherwise. All right, now let's jump away from these stories to something else I want to bring up, because it is the Feast of Tabernacles, but this is also another important time. Everybody here has a birthday. Everybody on the earth has a birthday. We were all born one day or another. And what do we like to have happen on our birthday? For people to tell us happy birthday, even if they don't get it on the exact day, within the week. We like that. We like to be told happy birthday. And when our birthday comes and goes and no one is there to remember, we get a little bummed, don't we? Now, nobody would like to have somebody celebrating their birthday at a time when it isn't, especially if it's months and months away. The reason I bring this up is because there is a birthday celebration that we should honor that somehow or another took place during the course of this week. You know whose birthday? Jesus' birthday. Yeshua's birthday. See, Jesus was not born in December. He was born during the time that we are in right now, sometime between 15 and 21 Tishri, during the time of the Feast of Tabernacles. Now, the Feast of Tabernacles was already in effect long before Jesus was born, because it commemorates another time, but it was during that time period that Jesus did come to earth, was born. Here's an article, Feast of Tabernacles. Have you ever noticed that apart from all Christians, from Christmas, all of the Christian festivals coincide with Jewish festivals? Talks about this, and it gets down here. It says evidence for Jesus being born at the Feast of Tabernacles. The Jews expected the Messiah in Hebrew, to appear at the Feast of Tabernacles. That is why Jesus' skeptical brothers taunted him to go to it. What was the basis of the expectation? Jeremiah 23, 5-6 tell us that the Messiah would be a branch from David's line. Zechariah prophesies that the branch will wipe away our guilt, and he will build the temple of the Lord and have royal dignity. and that on that day the line of David will be like the angel of the Lord going before them. When will that day be? It will be the Feast of Tabernacles. Zechariah 14:16 tells us that is when all nations are commanded to celebrate that day. Acts 15 through 16 quote us Amos 9:11 explains that God has returned to rebuild David's tabernacle, while Ezekiel 37:24 to 28 prophesies that David, the servant shepherd, will become king, Melech, and that his people will live under the shelter of my dwelling. Isaiah explains that the Lord will save us in Jerusalem, a city that feasts and a sturdy tent, and that his throne shall be set upon David's. In John 1:14, the word dweller is literally tabernacled in the Greek, and it comes to claim that John's version of the story of Christ's incarnation. One ceremony with the Feast of Tabernacles involves lights. Each afternoon of the 7 days, priests and pilgrims gathered at the temple. 4 large oil lamps illuminated the court of the women. The illumination from these lamps symbolized 2 things: the Shekinah, the visible presence of God which filled the temple, and the Ha or Gadol, the great light, which would come and bring light to those who were spiritually dead, dwelling in the darkness. John begins his gospel with a description of Christ coming into the world, and his description contains multiple references to light, another clue that Christ came into the world at the Feast of Tabernacles. According to Levi 23:42, during Sukkot, Jewish families construct a flimsy shelter called a sukkah, or a tabernacle. In the sukkah, the ceremonial upshim takes place, in which they welcome God's Shekinah, glory or presence, and of the 7 faithful shepherds: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, Aaron, and David. Could this be why the angel appeared to the group of shepherds? Moreover, in the Ushapim, the faithful shepherds are there to observe how their descendants are fulfilling God's commandments. This is similar to the shepherd's purpose, to see a thing that has happened and where to go, and to see Jesus but a flimsy shelter that we have traditionally called a stable, but which could probably be a sukkah. Instead of the Greek word for manger, it was probably the closest translation Luke could find for sukkah. Okay, so I'm going to go down here. Actually, let me jump over to the next one. Okay, so there's one link here. Here's another link, Jesus' real birthday. Many biblical scholars and preachers readily admit that they know that Christ was not born on December 25th. However, they claim that today is good as any other day to celebrate the birth of Jesus, despite the fact that it was the original celebrations called Saturnalia, which commemorated the birth of the sun god. God had this to say about appropriating pagan methods and the worship trying to honor them. He says, "Observe and obey all these words which I command you, that it may go well with you and your children after you forever, when you do what is good and right in the sight of the Lord, when the Lord your God cuts from you before the nations which you go to dispossess, and you displace them and dwell in their land. Take heed to yourself that you are not enslaved to follow them after they are destroyed before you, and that you do not inquire after their gods, saying, how do these nations serve their gods? I will do so likely. You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way, for every abomination to the Lord which he hates they have done to their gods, for they burn even the sons and daughters in the fire of their gods. Whatever I command you, be careful to observe it, and not add it or take away from it." Now, it says, few know that there is a biblical way to determine when the Messiah was actually born. You can do this by relating the conception of Jesus, or Yeshua, with the birth of John the Baptist. Now, one thing, for those of you who may be wondering, there is a difference between the name Jesus and Yeshua. The one being, Jesus is the English way that we call it, because there was no letter J as part of the alphabet. Therefore, there could not be the name Jesus or Joseph. So when you look at these names here, J was a Y. That is why we have the names, as I just read, of Moses, Moshe, Yeshua, Yosef. Everything goes with a J. Okay, so let's begin the scriptural part of Luke. So here we have Yeshua, okay, instead of Jesus. Okay, Yon. Anyway, There's the days of Herod, the kings of Judea, a certain priest named Zacharias of the division of Abijah. His wife was the daughter of Aaron, and her name Elizabeth, and they were both righteous before God, walking in all the commandments and the ordinances of the Lord, blameless. But they had no child because Elizabeth was barren, and they were both well advanced in years. First, we need to understand the division of Abijah. We find in 1 Chronicles 24, 1 through 19, that the descendants of Aaron's 24 grandsons, the sons of Eleazar and Ithamar, were divided into 24 divisions or courses for the purpose of serving at the temple. 1 Chronicles 24:10 tells us that the 8th division of service was assigned to Abijah's descendants. Each of these divisions served at the temple for an 8-day period. The service began and ended on the weekly Sabbath. In addition to the normal service, all 24 courses served at the temple during the 3 holy seasons every year. The Jewish Minasha means that each course served a week during the first half of the year, the 3 annual festival weeks, and a week during the last half, for a total of 5 weeks during a normal year. A normal year in the Jewish calendar consists of the 12 lunar months, or 29 to 30 days, for a total of 354 days. That is about 11 days less than the solar year. During a regular Jewish year, which occurs 12 times in a 19-year cycle, 51 weeks of coverage will be needed to ensure that the temple was cared for every week throughout the year. 24 the first half of the year plus 3 festival weeks plus 24 equals 51 weeks. Between the first and the 9th week of the year, 2 of the 3 festival times when all 24 courses served occurred. Therefore, the course of Abijah, the 8th course, would serve its first regular week during the 9th or 10th week of the year, depending on how the feast or the weeks fell in the calendar. With a background, let's review the conception of John the Baptist. So it was that while he, Zacharias, was serving as the priest before God in the order of his division, according to the custom of the priesthood, his lot fell to burn incense. When he went out to the temple of the Lord, and the whole multitude of the people was praying outside of the house of incense, then an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing in the right side of the altar of incense. And when Zacharias saw him, he was troubled, and fear fell upon him. But the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zacharias, for your prayer is heard, and your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you shall call his name John. And you will have joy and gladness, and many will rejoice at his birth. For he will be great in the sight of the Lord, and shall drink neither wine nor strong drink. He will also be filled with the Holy Spirit, even from his mother's womb, and he will turn away many of the children of Israel to the Lord their God. He will also go before him in the spirit and power of Elijah, to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the disobedient to the wisdom of the just, to make ready a people prepared for the Lord." And Zechariah said to the angel, "How shall I know this? For I am an old man, and my wife is well advanced in years." The angel answered and said, "I am Gabriel, who stands in the presence of God, and who was sent to speak to you and bring to you these glad tidings. But behold, you will be mute and not able to speak until the day the things take place, because you did not believe my words, which will be fulfilled in their own time." And the people waited for Zacharias and marveled that he lingered so long in the temple. But when he came out, he could not speak to them, and they were perceived that he had seen a vision in the temple, for he beckoned to them and remained speechless. And so it was, as soon as the days of his service were completed, he departed to his own house. After those days his wife Elizabeth conceived, and she hid herself for 5 months, saying, "Thus the Lord has dealt with me in the days when he looked on me to take away my reproach among people." Zechariah's wife Elizabeth would have conceived John the Baptist shortly following the week of his service at the temple. This would have been sometime late Sivan or early Tammuz. So now let's take a focus to look at Elizabeth's young relative Mary. Now in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent by God to a city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin betrothed to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David. The virgin's name was Mary, and having come in, the angel said to her, "Rejoice, highly favored one, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women." But when she saw him, she was troubled at his saying, and considered that manner of greeting this was. Then the angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God, and behold, you will conceive in your womb, and bring forth a son, and shall call his name Jesus. He will be great, and he will be called Son of the Highest, and the Lord God will give him the throne of his father David. He will reign over the house of Jacob forever, and his kingdom there will be no end. Then Mary said to the angel, How can this be, since I do not know a man? The angel answered and said to her, The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the highest will overshadow you. Therefore also that Holy One who is to be born will be called the Son of God. Now therefore Elizabeth, your relative, was also conceived, and is now in the 6th month for her, who was called barren. For the Lord God nothing will be impossible. Mary said, Behold, the maidservant of the Lord, let it be done according to your word. And with that the angel departed. The Holy Spirit likely overshadowed Mary very soon after her encounter with the angel Gabriel. If John the Baptist was conceived in the 2-week period after Sivan, Jesus would have been conceived about 6 months later, at the end of the month of Kislev, or the beginning of the month of Tevet. Many would probably have conceived Jesus sometime. Mary probably would have conceived Jesus sometime from Kislev 24 to Tevet 7. Kislev 25 is the beginning of the Feast of Hanukkah, also known as the Festival of Lights. This 8th-day festival continues to Tevet 2. Jesus observed the Feast of Hanukkah while he was on earth. John gives us an indication that Jesus was in fact conceived during the Festival of Lights when he speaks of him at the beginning. John says, In him was life, and life was in light of men, and light shines in the darkness, and darkness did not comprehend it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. This man came for a witness, to bear witness of the light through all that might be. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness to the light. That was the true light which gives light to every man coming into the world. All right, a little bit more there for you to read, but there you have it. Happy birthday, Yeshua. Happy birthday to Yeshua, Jesus Christ. It's his birthday. Everybody likes to have a happy birthday on their birthday, right? I know I do. Pretty certain you do too. So, time to remember the birth. And also just kind of know how they've tried to hide the birth. They've tried to hide it. What's strange is, talk to people today. Remind them that this is the time of Jesus' birthday. See how many people really care. You might be surprised. So, if you don't want to be surprised, probably shouldn't ask people. But if you want to be in for an eye-opening surprise, tell people today's Jesus' birthday. This week is the celebration of his birth. Tell them. See how many really don't care. It's kind of sad when you look at it. But on the other hand, you will find that those that do care, and that's the good part. So, I think we're in a time, the separating of the wheat from the chaff. It's very easy to see who's going to side with who. We need to continue to side with God. We need to understand more and more about what Jesus is about. It's his birthday. Happy birthday. Let's celebrate that. Let's remember that. And let's move on to this story, Warrior of the Light, page 116. Seeing this, some of his companions say, if someone wants something, they'll ask for it. But the warrior knows there are many people who simply cannot bring themselves to ask for help. Alongside him live people who, with such fragile hearts that love becomes a sickness. They are striving for affection and yet are ashamed to show it. The warrior gathers people around the fire. He tells stories, shares his food, gets drunk with them. The following day, everyone feels better. Those who look at the other people's misery with indifference are the most miserable of all. Okay, it's a very good point. Very good point indeed. Everybody is going through their own trials and tribulations. We don't want to look down on anybody for anything they're going through. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And exhale. Now, take another deep breath. Exhale again. And as you continue to breathe, just contemplate all of the goodness the universe has to offer. The light, the positivity. And at the same time, be aware of the negativity that life tries to impose upon others. And as you look at the positivity and the negativity from this outside perspective, you see opportunity to change. To change the positivity simply by sending more light to it so the positivity grows. And to change the negativity by sending positivity to that so it moves from the pole of negativity to the positive pole. And as we see all of these aspects of life before us, we realize we are able to make positive changes. So we think about changing the world for the better. And as we go through the world, we see all of the challenges, the problems, and we just send love to them and light to them. We just imagine them at peace and everything moving well. And let's just make it a simple process that as we move through the world, we just send out love and positivity. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that, because this is what the world needs. And so every bit that we can send is helpful. So let's just imagine sending love. And when you send this love, just imagine the color green from your heart. Or imagine the shape of the heart, like a Valentine, and just imagine it going out. Whatever it takes just for you to imagine sending love out into the world. And as it goes out into the world, just imagine this love changing things for the better, bringing more strength and faith and courage. So let the subconscious mind continue on the journey of sending out love, and let's bring the conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale and open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That's the show for today to get us started. We got things to contemplate, what happened with the Pope. We've got better things to contemplate, what's going on with life, and remembering that this is the time when Jesus was born. The Savior was born. Jesus Christ, Yeshua. If we remember that, we think of all of the hope and promise and possibilities that came with the mission that he had upon earth. The mission which is still in effect, because we are all being affected by the fire, the water, and the air that was expressed, by the ideas, the emotions, and the words and actions. So we go forward at examples to be able to share this. When Jesus was alive, there was one of him. Now, over all these years of people reading the example, there's an opportunity for there to be many, many, many Jesuses upon this planet. And we truly know that by looking around, we do see many who are spreading this peaceful, loving message that Jesus brought. And that's good. That is very good indeed. So let's keep that up, my friends. Let's keep sending out the good, the positivity. Let's keep accentuating the power of God, the power of the Christ. And take a moment today just to give a little happy birthday wish to Jesus, to Yeshua. That's it. I'll be back tomorrow. More news and information. Have an awesome day. I'll talk to you soon. I love you. Keep loving each other. Peace. I'm out of here.